I have been a city nanny for a very long time, and I love the city. I love the noise, the lights, the mess of it all. But ever since the family I work with moved to the suburbs, life has been different. And although traffic on the bridge can be tough sometimes, there are some perks, like nature and a backyard or a front. And in this video, we are going to decorate the front of the house. And the theme is
Harry Potter. Wicked.
So a few years ago, I helped my friend throw a Harry Potter themed Halloween party. And although I wasn't about to repeat all this candy making, I did call up my friend to see if he has some leftover decorations that I can use. Just give me a second to look at this cake again. Let me show you what I found. We got these floating candles and some flying keys. I have this Hogwarts banner, mini cauldrons with mini candles to go in, and this black candle, this little sign, and a potion book that I remember making last time. I also printed some wanted signs, so let's go DIY. We're gonna make some Dementors. I'm gonna use a paper bag, plastic hanger, tape, embroidery thread, this plastic tablecloth I got from Michael's, and some tool I had at home. So the first thing you want to do is make a head shape out of the bag. You can get a styrofoam head from Michael's, but I figured this one is cheaper, also better for the planet. I used the tape to kind of put it into shape. It doesn't have to be perfect since it's gonna be loosely covered. Then I will take the hanger and put it in there, kind of like making a body shape, the shoulders of our Dementor, and stick it all together, make it secure. I'm gonna take our embroidery thread and put it at the top of the head. Then we're gonna take the tablecloth, we're gonna open it, doesn't matter which side you use, and we're gonna pick a spot not exactly in the middle since I want the back of it to be a bit longer, and use the needle and the thread to connect it together. After we thread both sides, we're gonna tie it together. Now I'm gonna use the tape to give it a little more shape. I'm gonna stick it to the hanger and gonna make kind of a shoulder shape. Now basically I'm gonna do the same thing with the tool. I guess you can use different fabrics to it, but this is what I had at home, and you can also see the stitches on the tool. I didn't really mind because I wanted it to look kind of distressed, so I just put the thread again, and tied it together. Now for the fun part, we're gonna start tearing up the edges. And we're gonna do the same thing with the tool. And that's it, our Dementors are ready, and all we have to do is hang some of them outside. For the rest of the decorations, I'll be using the Cricut Maker. I bought it only a few weeks ago, so I'm pretty new at this. In fact, I didn't even know what the Cricut is doing at first. But after binge watching YouTube Cricut projects, I just had to have it. I bought the Cricut Maker with the Everything bundle. I thought it was the best deal regarding the price and the materials you get. So all the materials you'll see in this video is from the Cricut Maker Everything bundle. The first thing I'm gonna use the Cricut for will be the Hogwarts Express sign.
Can you tell me where I might find platform 9 3/4?
I was lucky enough to find those two pieces at Michael's that fits perfectly for what I need. Mixing some acrylic paint I already had, I started painting. I used some gold I had for the edges, and there it is. Looks beautiful. In the Cricut design space, I make the shape and size that I need. I chose a foam that looks like what they have in the movie, and I put the white circle on top to just make the size right. I then separated the words because I don't have a big mat and made a stencil out of it. This is my first time using it and it was quite simple. I then went ahead and made the 9 3/4 stencil for the circle that goes on top. Again, I made the rectangle size that I've got to make sure it's the right size. Using the stencil vinyl I got in the bundle, I cut it all together. When it was all ready, I took off the excess and started weeding. I think that's the term. When I was done, I used a Cricut transfer tape to put on my board. Again, the tape that I got in my bundle. This part was a bit difficult. The transfer tape was much stickier than the stencil vinyl, so it took a while to put it in place and to take them apart, and even after that it didn't feel like it stick properly, but I went ahead and was very gentle with the paint, and eventually it didn't bleed out. Came out pretty nice, so that was fine. To make the white circle, I just traced the stencil I printed and painted white. When the circle was all dry, I put in the stencil and just went in with a black marker. The last thing I needed was the Hogwarts seal. I measured a spot on the board and then I used the print and cut option. I just have to pause here and say that this thing came out incredible. I went ahead and used a Mod Podge to stick it in place and then cover the whole thing to seal it. Now to the second part of our sign. I'm using the same 9 3/4 from before, just adjusting it to the size of my sign and leaving it as a basic cut. As I was saying, I'm using only what I got in the bundle. The white vinyl I got is the removable one, but it felt much stickier than the stencil. Also was easier to handle, so I thought it's good enough. I'm using this foam sheet that I got from Michael's to make a frame and also cover the holes at the top. So I didn't know if the Cricut can cut it. I'm assuming it could, but I wasn't sure, so I decided to just cut it by hand. The last piece was the seal that's sitting on top of the black sign. Again, I was cutting it with the Cricut, then using the Mod Podge to put it on some leftover foam sheet. I used those little cake circles as a backing for the seal and cut it around. Then all is left is putting it all together. I felt like my sign was missing something, so I decided to make this brick wall. I'm using some leftover paint and a sponge over a plastic tablecloth.
Packed with muggles, of
Next,
course.
we're gonna make some banners.
Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin.
So I got the fabrics at Michael's. 3 colors came in a bundle, and then the blue one I got separately. I'm gonna use the Avery dark fabric transfers to print and cut. So I uploaded these houses crests to the Cricut design space and made it as a print and cut. Now you're going to notice I'm not cutting the Slytherin one in the machine. It was the first one I did, and I didn't remove the backing. It just cut a square around it, and even though I tried to kind of remove the backing, measure it on top of the picture with the backing on the Cricut design space and let the machine cut it again, it didn't recognize it and it couldn't cut it. So I was cutting it by hand while the machine was cutting the rest of it, and it took us about the same time for the machine to cut all 3 of them and for me to cut just one. Then I measured the pictures and cut. I went ahead and sewed the edges in my sewing machine. Then using an extra shelf I had from my kitchen, because you need a hard surface and a pillowcase, I was following the Avery instruction, peeling it off and using the tissue paper they provided to press it in. You need to press it really hard for a few minutes. I was checking after a minute or so to see that the edges are not peeling off, and then it was ready. I went ahead and did the same thing with the rest. I have to say that the Cricut cut it perfectly, and I'm really enjoying playing around with it. When I was done with the ironing, I went ahead to add those wood dowels that I already had at home actually, with some hot glue. After figuring out where I want to hang them, I realized it will be easier if they'll be connected, so I used some hot glue and tape to connect them. And there it is. I know it's a bit crooked, but I feel like it's part of its charm. Or shall I say, magic.
Gryffindor!
Next, we're gonna make some signs.
Welcome, Harry, to Diagon Alley.
So I got this board at Michael's. I got the stick from outside and the cinnamon whisk from Trader Joe's. I'm gonna use the stick and the whisk to make a broom and attach it to what's supposed to be the hanger for this board, but I'm gonna be using it in a different way, so it's perfect for me. Then in design space, I'll create a shape in the size that I have, put down the words and some decoration stars. I'm using the stencil vinyl again because this is what I've got. It wasn't very comfortable to work with last time, but I hope I'm gonna get better at this. I think the design and the board were a bit easier to use, so it was easier to do it, and then I was just going over it with some white paint.
Which was
For this one, I decided to bring some magic, and I mixed up this blue and silver paint that I already had and paint this board I got at Michael's. And again, in design space, I measured my board, created a rectangle in the same size, and chose a font for this sign. Now I went ahead again with the removable vinyl because that's what I got in the bundle, but I got some YouTube tricks or hacks that I was trying here. First of all is to weed on the mat and then kind of use this little scraper on both sides to make sure that the letter sticks, and I have to say it really helped. Another YouTube hack was to use Mod Podge on the removable vinyl. So to make the Hogwarts sign, I'm brushing a little bit of white paint over this board. I'm using a font called Wizard World to create this sign with a little arrow to point the castle. I'm using some brown and gold acrylic paint and tapping it down with the sponge to make it look a little bit rusty.
Forest? I thought that was a joke. We can't go in there.
The last sign, I have this wood from Michael's and I'm staining it. I'm using another magical font for this one and adding some spiders to lead the way. So in the bundle I got some adhesive foil and I chose this beautiful color for the Forbidden Forest sign. It was a bit harder to work with, but eventually it came out beautiful. I decided to use some Mod Podge on all the sign at the end, just because it's gonna be outside and I wanted it to last. Using some wood glue to glue it to the stick I found at the house, left over for something, and some creativity to hold it in place. And we are done. We had a lot of wind and rain, so some things moved around, but overall it came out pretty cool and we are all super excited about it. Happy Halloween! Thank you all for watching my very first video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you in the next one.